Yeah, that's fine. Did Ted disappear on us? I don't see him.
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, never mind. I see it. And I see Jennifer. Welcome.
Thank you.
Where are you from, Jennifer?
I'm from Ball State University. I'm the internship coordinator for our construction management program.
Oh, very cool. I'm glad you're
Nice.
glad you're here.
Uh-huh.
I think you'll have some good insight for us. So that's good.
It's going to be an interesting summer for interns for sure.
No joke. I mean, I coordinate internships in my institution as well, and it's been kind of a circus around here. Yeah.
Mhm. Have you seen many employers rescind offers?
That's a great question. The students are not really telling me a whole lot about any rescinded offers or anything like that. I just get an email from them saying, "Hey, I'm looking for an internship." I think that's an interesting point because I feel like some of them I hope they're not taking it personally, or are feeling like, I guess I wasn't good enough for them, or whatever. One of the companies that I work with, and I'm sure I'll talk about some in here, we had I think 5 interns this semester, and they've been on site since January, and we sent them home because with all of the unknowns, and I mean, people are getting furloughed and everything else, so it was difficult to maintain their workload.
Right.
As well when you're not running production.
Mm-hmm.
I see Marcia.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Marcia. Where are you from?
I am from Ozarks Technical Community College in Springfield, Missouri.
Oh, awesome. Welcome.
Very cool.
Very good. Very good.
Well, Neil, it's about 5 after 3. I don't know. Do you want to go ahead and kind of get started? And
yeah, thanks, Jim. That's great. Thanks for helping set all of this up. So just a little bit of background. So this whole concept came up, I think a week and a half ago. Jim and I were on a call with the ATMAE executive board. I'm the secretary on the board of directors, and we decided that it would be nice just to have some webinars like this, just to talk about kind of hot topics in the ATMAE community. And so the topic of internships and co-ops, if you will, came up. And so welcome. This is our first one. It's kind of unstructured. I'm really glad that people are interacting. I was really scared that people were going to be sort of like students on the first day of class, where they just kind of like show up and they stare at you, and you ask them a question, or you tell a joke or something, and they look at you like you're just weird. So I'm glad that people are here and participating. I see we had another person join, Kevin Devine. Welcome. And let's do a real quick round of introductions. So who are you? Where are you from? I'm Neil Littell from Ohio University.
And I'm Kevin Devine from Illinois State University.
Hi, Kevin.
I'm Ted Branoff. I'm also at Illinois State. Kevin's our coordinator of engineering technology, and I'm the chair of the Department of Technology.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm Dan Mitchell from Wayne State College, Wayne, Nebraska. I'm our department chair for the IT.
Very good. Thank you. Welcome.
Jen Warner. I'm the internship coordinator for the construction management program at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana.
Perfect. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marcia, and I am with Ozarks Technical Community College in Springfield, Missouri. I am the director of institutional effectiveness.
That's an awesome title.
Yeah.
Institutional effectiveness. I like it. So we'll begin. So I sort of, this afternoon just kind of sat down and kind of wrote out a few questions, kind of guiding questions, I guess, for this session. I'll throw them out, but feel free to comment, add in or ask your own questions. This is for you, right? So Has anyone on the call, has anyone reached out to your students, and what are they saying back to you with respect to internships?
Well, here's what's happening to us. Our construction interns are not affected right now, but our drafting majors and our safety majors are. We just had 4 kids get dropped from Nucor Detailing in Norfolk, Nebraska, because their corporation is not going to do internships. So we are looking at other options to get our seniors that are going to be graduating next year their internships. So that's why we dialed in today.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else?
So we have about 200 students total in our program that are required to have 2 internships in order to graduate. Last summer we had 99 students out working from the program, and this summer I'm sitting at right about 50 interns. So I know that I have a feeling that's partially because of everything that's going on with the pandemic, but I've had 3, I only know of 3 students that have lost positions because of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, so on my side, I've had an uptick in people requesting help getting internship experiences, I would say this semester, from where I normally am. And I'm more of a facilitator than anything else. I'm not, I'll write reference letters and things like that, but I'm not out there actively trying to matchmake students and companies. I rely on them to kind of find their own experiences. And I help wherever I can. I haven't heard anyone say, "Hey, I had this internship and now I don't." And that, so I was a little curious to hear if people were active, or companies were actively turning off interns for the summer. I don't know. Maybe companies are sort of, maybe it's not even on their radar at this point. I mean, a lot of companies are just trying to live day by day, and that's something that's going to happen out in May, which is, too far out beyond the horizon. So I had a question that I wrote down. So I think it was sort of answered a little bit. So my state defines internships as industrial experience to gain experiential learning, and co-ops are similar, but the co-ops are a required part of the curriculum. And so because we don't have them have internship experiences as an integrated required part of our curriculum, is technically not a co-op. So I was interested in hearing for the programs that do have a true co-op, where you do require students to get some work experience to be able to graduate. How are you accommodating that? Or what are you doing? And I think that's why a lot of people are on this call today. And I will tell you, it's not like I have answers. I just wanted to pull people together to talk about it, because I think maybe somebody on this call does have answers and can share with other people.
Well, Neil, we have 2 programs in our department that require work hours. Okay. So it's our construction management program, which is ACCE accredited, has 800 hours before it's a prerequisite to the capstone class. And engineering tech has 400 work hours. So construction management has decided to cut that back to 400 for fall. Okay. And spring. And they haven't made a decision about fall 21 yet, but it's likely that students, because you're talking about 2 summers. Yeah. Yeah. And we've already heard from some companies that have canceled all internships this summer in mainly the Chicago suburbs. So that's kind of where we are with construction management. I'll let Kevin talk about engineering tech.
Yeah, so in engineering tech, we require 400 hours before their capstone experience.
Okay.
And we are going to waive that requirement for the next 2 semesters, because again, the students are hitting a brick wall right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Has there been any discussion around alternate assignments or, you know?
Yeah, we talked about alternate assignments. We talked about, perhaps some sort of certification as an alternative. Yeah. The logistics of making that happen were going to be pretty challenging for us. There's costs involved with some of them. Some of them are very involved, I mean, in terms of study time. Some require actual projects be completed in the workplace as part of the certification. And then just the logistics of managing what certifications are acceptable and what are not. Some require proctoring of exams, and there was just so many various nuances that we opted to not go that way at this time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sticky situation.
We're possibly looking at a practicum where if we have our drafting and design courses, having that student come in as a practicum and help with the class, at least for some hours. The other thing that we're looking at is maybe a course substitution and build a special project class remotely and get some of the manufacturers or whatever, maybe possibly do a Zoom with our students.
You know, that's an interesting concept. I had heard that our ATMAE robotics team was starting to work remotely via, we use Microsoft Teams at Ohio University. So I wonder if there's student challenges that, you know, like the ATMAE robotics competition, that would be appropriate venues to allow people to work together and start doing design work, in your case, to pursue some larger project. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I also thought about, you know, maybe reaching out to some of my industry contacts and saying, you know, hey, can you give me something that you want done that some students could do? You know, maybe it's building dashboards, or, you know, taking a large data set and building some reporting mechanism, or, you know, building some capability that is something that people have wanted within the company, but nobody's had the time to pursue it. And something that students can work on with minimal supervision and can be done, you know, so remotely, right?
Almost like a prototype.
Yeah, exactly. Prototyping, or you know, I guess, you know, I had one conversation with a company, and they said, yeah, we could give you some data, and if you could build around, you know, how this big database that we use to manage our projects. And we're interested in having a dashboard that can take all of that data and sort of consolidate it down into one view to help us manage our projects more strategically without having to go look at each individual project. But it was kind of one of those desirable things. It was like, you know, this is not going to stop us from production. It's not mission critical or anything like that. It's a convenience. And it was also sort of one of those things like, we can give you this, but we're not going to give you any help either. We can give you this data and we can give you some requirements, but that's about it. And, you know, so it's sort of like, good luck. If you could do something for free for us, that'd be great. if not, then we'll be okay. Yeah. Well, so what conversations are you having with your faculty, and what are they saying? What, you know, are the faculty, you know, who are not really as involved in the co-op experiences, are they stepping up and saying, yeah, I can help connect people to industries, or what does that look like in your institution?
This is Miran. We haven't had any conversation with any of our faculty. It's mostly me, and we have one teacher at one of the high schools that has been able to maybe locate some industry that will take the students. And as of now, I think We don't know yet because we are waiting for sort of to see how this thing goes, because if they start working for the summertime, it will be sometime in June that will start. So just sort of have to see how the dust settles within the next few weeks to see whether they will be open to take anybody on or not. So as of conversation with this faculty, really no input, and there only just one or two that maybe be willing to help, and they will help if the opportunity arises.
Yeah, welcome, Ron. What institution are you with?
Columbia State Community College, sorry.
Oh, very good. No, welcome. Yeah, we're glad you're here. Is there anyone else on the call that I'm not aware of? At this point, I'm trying to look. I think we're good. Justina Buck. Hi, Justina. Welcome.
Hi, sorry, I couldn't figure out how to unmute.
Oh, no, you're good. Where are you from?
The University of Arkansas in Fort Smith.
Oh, very good. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. So one of the questions that I had, because I also teach capstone for my institution, how many programs have a capstone experience where the students are required to work with industry to complete their projects, and how are you going to address that? So for example, in the fall, I have a capstone class that is required to execute a cost reduction project with a company. And I'm anxious right now because I don't know how difficult it's going to be for them to find their products. I mean, in July is typically when they try to start finding and identifying their projects. Have you thought about those classes as well? So maybe not really an internship, but it's an industrial interaction that's probably part of your curriculum. And how are you handling that situation?
We don't have that. We just have the internship.
Okay.
We had that, but our capstone course is offered in the spring. And so those students had to learn how to work with industry for the second half of the semester remotely, as we all dealt with this new normal. But a lot of those industry mentors are alumni of our program, so they were very willing to help in whatever capacity they were able to. And kind of as we were talking about before this started, Neil, a lot of those are younger alums, and so they're much more tech savvy than the rest of us, and so they even help the students to develop some new strategies of how to stay engaged and how to maybe even how to better approach those projects from a remote perspective.
Very good, Jennifer. Do you only offer that course in the spring? Is that sort of like a sequence or something?
It is. So it's just for our senior students, and that's offered every spring before they graduate.
That's so lucky. Like you hit it just right.
Yes, but something else that we did, and I initially developed this for a sophomore level class that I teach, but we developed a COVID-19 response assignment. So
Okay.
if they were leading a construction company or in a management role, what would their response be? What would they need to be thinking about? And there were several different phases to that assignment to make them think at a higher level at each phase. And so that was one modification that we made due to the current situation.
Very good, Jennifer. So that's what you did to kind of adapt that experience to the situation for this semester? Is that?
Yes, so that was that was a modification to one. They do a project management assignment for construction, and that was one addition to that.
Oh, very good. I know one of the things that I did at my institution was I emailed we have an industrial advisory board, right? And so I emailed all of our industrial advisory board, and I said, hey, can we just do this? Can we have a Zoom call and get some interaction between you and the students, and just we want to hear your experience. So we did this probably 2 weeks ago. So we had people from Lockheed Martin, from Honda, from Toyota, from just a bunch of different companies. You had some tier 1 suppliers and even like some smaller companies. But it was interesting to hear the questions that were coming from the students and the responses from our industrial advisory board. At the time, Honda was just getting ready to start furloughing people for their plants here in Honda, which in Ohio, but that's the first time they've done that in 40 years. So it's quite a change, I would say, these times. Has anyone else done anything or tried to build new connections between students and just trying to keep them engaged? Or what are you doing to connect your students to industry?
So for us with our capstone project, we were kind of lucky that our students were kind of wrapping up at the very end of the semester. And so they were able to complete their projects with some Zoom meetings and some things like that. But our capstone goes every semester. So we're tentatively trying to look at what we're going to do in the fall if this continues and we are still doing a full online and industry isn't accepting our students anymore, because our capstone students are actually working with several different businesses in downtown Fort Smith to collaborate on their project. So we don't have a solution yet for fall if unfortunately this continues.
Yeah, I think we're sort of in the same boat. I can tell you from my my capstone class, I've been thinking a lot about, it's an operations management class as well. And so I've been thinking a lot around how do I bring more case studies into the class? How do I, try to enable collaboration the best I can through Microsoft Teams? How do I replicate, or is it possible? Hopefully it is possible. How can I replicate some of the experiences that they have in capstone?
Yeah, in our engineering technology capstone, we do most of our work in-house, so we're not dealing with external companies. And we have a focus on lean manufacturing, so our students develop a work cell and so forth. And of course, that project was cut, right in the middle. And I'll tell you, the saving thing that I fell back on is that I used a discrete event simulator. And so students were able to simulate the cells that they had developed, and that's working out better than I had thought it might. There's value in that. It certainly is a different twist on what we had hoped to have, but it was a good fallback, that's for sure.
Kevin, do you see yourself bringing that forward even after this COVID-19 stuff?
I do. I've been thinking about using that for a number of years, and then the class was so full with stuff already, I just couldn't see how I would squeeze more in. Well, it's there and it's in, and it's free software. It's a Siemens product. They're Technomatics plant simulation software, so it's free to download and use, and it's really not difficult to use at the level we're using it. I mean, there's tons of stuff that you can do with that we're not touching on, but for basic bottleneck identification and assembly simulation, it's been an effective tool. I think we'll try and use it some more.
Kevin, that sounds like a great presentation for our conference if you're willing to bring it forward and show it off.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. It would be nice.
Yeah.
I've thought about building a discrete event simulation in as well. One of our professors has played with it a little bit, Professor Pagan, Jesus Pagan, who comes to ATMAE a good bit. And but it's never, he's done it from a robotics side. So really they're doing more emulation of robotic controls than actual discrete event simulation is kind of the context that he's doing it.
Yeah, I teach.
I'm thinking of it more from an operations management side.
Yeah, I teach our robotics course, and our CNC course. So simulation is a natural in those classes.
Sure.
But the discrete event stuff has really been, I think, very helpful. Yeah.
Wow, very, very cool. Is anyone else identified, or you're doing something that you think is going to change your curriculum going forward? I guess that would be the silver lining of COVID is you find something else new that was really good, and now you can do that.
Yeah. Well, I think a silver lining for me also is that where we're using Zoom at ISU, and I've been giving a lot of software demos via Zoom, and you know, a natural byproduct if you click that button in Zoom is to record your sessions, and I make those available. So it's been, I've heard comments from students that they appreciate those demos being recorded. Where in a classroom, if you demo, they're not recorded, at least in our situation. And so they appreciate being able to go back and view those things multiple times. So that's helpful also, I think.
I think one, you know, adding to Zoom, we use a lot of Zoom here, but our faculty just switched over last semester to Canvas rather than Sakai, a content management system. And if we wouldn't have had that, it would have been a total mess trying to teach remotely. So I think that Canvas is here to stay.
Yeah, Canvas seems nice. We don't use Canvas, but from what I've seen and what I've heard faculty members like yourself, Dan, it sounds like it's a really good tool. Hopefully we'll get it at some point. We're stuck on Blackboard for now.
We're using Sakai here, and it's working well with Zoom. It's working pretty well. So,
well, they had Sakai here before I got here, and the teachers did like it, but now all the ones that liked Sakai like Canvas better because there's way more options for them.
That's interesting. That's good to know. I think it's been really interesting on my side to see how quickly Microsoft Teams has completely taken over basically all communication between students and faculty. I mean, there's still email, of course, but I use Slack for a number of years in my project management class that I teach online during the summers. And I really like that tool, but I'm to the point where I like Teams even better. The integration with for video conferencing and just calling people is being terrific. I mean, I'm at my desk all day, just like I am at OU, right? And you know, I hear a chime and I look up and I see a student who's asking a question through chat. And it's easy just to say, let's just connect and, you know, have a conversation. It's kind of the same as them walking into my office, right? And so that's worked really well for me. I think that technology is going to be very, very, very changing, I think, for our institution going forward. It's good. I think I lucked out as well in my capstone class. I got fed up with how expensive my textbook was a year ago, and worked with another faculty member to find open source resources for everyone. And so I kind of modularized my topics, and then pulled all the content in and developed all of that and deployed it last year for the first time. So that was very, very helpful because now I can just record my lectures and post them and be done for the operations management portion, because all of the homework and the reading and all of that was already curated for me. Well, good. Good. So we're moving a little bit quicker than I thought. So I do have one last question, and then I'll just kind of open it up for anyone who has any questions, comments, or concerns, and we just have open discussion. I mean, this is really what we're doing now. But so as we move out of COVID-19, how are you planning on moving forward with your internships? Are you recommending that people shift things to the fall semester and maybe push their graduation back, or what are you doing? What's your recommendation at this point?
One of the things that we have been doing is that if, like Kevin, instead of 400 hours, we do 180 hours. If the students have not been able to complete that many hours, we will give them an incomplete until they do it. So that's basically how we're approaching it. So if even past that, that's the way I'm going to move forward with it for now.
So Miran, do you envision getting into a situation where you would have a student who's completed all the coursework except for that internship, and then you would, once they get a job, you would count the first month or whatever of work kind of back credit it to fulfill that incomplete, or
I would consider that. Yeah, I would consider it. In particular, we don't give a grade for them for the internship. We give them a pass or fail. So if they, depending on how they, what we think based on their evaluation from work and things like that, that takes into account. And so I would really like for them to work 180 hours. That's a good idea. I didn't even think about that one, for them to go to work and then count that as toward their degree. But yes, that will be something definitely to consider.
Yeah, I don't know. My institution would probably have problems with that, just because I don't think we couldn't confer a degree, right? Because they'd have an incomplete. So the mechanics of that would be a little complicated on our side, I think.
Well, they won't get a degree. They will be working, hopefully, because most companies, they're not going to care whether when they hire you, because this will be really part of their job. I don't think, I would consider that. What I mean is the student is hired because they're pretty much done. It's just that one course and they're doing it. So they will not be hired with a degree. Maybe if the salary depends on having that degree, they'll wait to add that after they complete it or something like that. But that's something we never thought of. And in fact, now I'm going to be thinking about it. That's a very good idea, though, to be honest with you.
Oh, you're welcome.
We've done that with several students, where the student will get the degree after they finish the internship hours. And I found that some companies are okay with that, them not having the degree, and some do require that they have the degree. But you're exactly right. They just modify their pay once they're done with the actual internship hours.
Yeah, I think most employers would get it, especially in this environment. If you said, look, this is a required component, we had all the COVID stuff going on, so I haven't met this one requirement, let me work, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, in our case at ISU, so the work experience is not actually a course. It's they just need to document work experience as a prerequisite to our capstone course.
Okay.
And so, being able to require them to come back and get that after they take the capstone class would be, the water's under the bridge by then. I mean, if once they're in the class, that prerequisite requirement disappears. So that's really not an option, in our scenario.
So Kevin, is that prerequisite? Is there any credit awarded for that work experience?
Well, students have the option of taking it for credit, and we would call that an internship. But so many of our students in our institution are community college transfer students that don't need the credit hours to graduate, that if we required them to take the internship for credit, it would almost be like a tax where they, those credit hours, they'd be paying tuition but it wouldn't advance them toward the degree. So we give them the option. If they can use the credit hour in their plan of study, take the class. If they don't need the credit hours, just get the same number of work hours.
That's a good point, because we do something similar at OU. We have I don't know, 75-80% of our students in my program will do an internship, but very few of them actually sign up for the internship class where they get credit, because they don't want to pay for it, which is understandable, because the only thing they can use it for is a free elective. And so then we've had discussions within the faculty of counting it as a technical elective, or and then the other problem is it only counts for 1 credit hour. So what do you do with 1 credit hour, right? Because everything's kind of in chunks of 3. And so that's always kind of been the question, is do we convert this into a special topics class or something where they can at least get 3 credit hours, and then we can count it as a technical elective, and then they can do it that way. I guess that's sort of that's one question I'm interested in asking the group is, how do you offer course credit for these types of experiences? And if you do, how's it counted? Is it just built into your curriculum, or is it a technical elective, or just a free elective, or how do you handle that?
Ours is a requirement for their major.
Okay.
So they have to document. We actually have an intern person that takes care of all the internships. When they come back, they have to do a presentation to a class. They have an option. They have the option to take 3 credits, 6 credits, or more of internship. They're paying for the credits. Let's see what else is on there. I think
those credits. So it sounds like 3 credits are required. What are the so after 3, what are they just like free electives or?
If they opt to go for more electives, they can count for their total number of higher level classes to graduate.
Okay.
What we find with our internship program is where our kids are doing the internship, a lot of times they're getting hired there after they're done.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they actually end up working there longer than what their internship is required. So they might have an internship that requires 180 hours. They might work there 360 or more.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a win-win for everyone, right? That's why I really love the internships.
It's tied to the major for graduation.
Interesting. That's really we've talked about, do we make it a requirement or not? It's really difficult for us because I'm in Southeast Ohio, and we just don't have a whole lot of industry around us, and so it would potentially place a very large burden on students to make it a required component, and we don't want to disadvantage some of our students because they can't afford to go to Columbus or wherever and work for a summer.
And that's probably our one advantage right now in the Midwest here. Kids would have to travel to they'd have to travel an hour, 2.5 hours for the industry, but we're just getting started with our manufacturing majors. So we're going to have 2 or 3 internships this summer for that, rather than 25 or 50. So we have an advantage right now.
Yeah, well, and for us, we try to develop a pipeline, right? So we try to develop relationships with companies like Honda and their suppliers. They, we have 3 career fairs every semester over 3 days. We'll have about 150 companies that come total, and I mean that's for the entire engineering college, but probably 70-80% of those companies are hiring our students as well as the gambit of engineers out there, and so that's where we're placing a lot of people. And it's interesting to me because there's definitely a spectrum of positions that are available. Some of these companies have housing that they'll provide for the students, and they pay them a bunch of money, and some of them are not that way. Right. And so it's really interesting to see kind of the gambit. I think most of them have gotten the memo though that people aren't going to work for free. Not for engineering interns. So that's a good thing for us, I think. Great. Well, so that's all the questions that I had thought of, and just sitting around while I was eating lunch and typing out questions. Does anyone have other issues that you're facing, or does anyone want to know the perspective of other people on any other topics? What do you think?
Well, it definitely is not the ideal situation, and I know we have courses that probably could be taught online without any problems, but I know I got an email from a student today, Dr. Devine knows, and it's a matter of doing everything we can to help students get through this semester, but then making sure they have a decent experience. And they did not come to Illinois State or Ohio University or you name the school to be taught online.
Yep.
And our classes weren't developed to be taught online, and so that it's an interesting dilemma we have, especially going into fall when we don't know what's going to happen, but we're a business.
Yeah.
If you don't have students coming in paying tuition, we're not going to survive. And so that's just like small business or any business. So it's a interesting problem right now, and I'm hoping we are face to face in a big way in the fall in some way. But you also have to look. The students probably can survive a lot of this stuff, but we've got faculty that aren't very young anymore, and you got to have people there to teach. So those decisions are way above my pay grade. But
has anyone heard any rumors or anything around the fall semester? Does anyone have any definitive plans from their institutions yet? I've heard rumors from other places about delaying the fall semester, maybe doing the first month online and then coming to the classes after, maybe in late September, or, something like that. But I'd say we're kind of all in a holding pattern, as well as, probably everyone on this call, until I don't think we'll know what's going on exactly until July, probably 1st of July. That's just me. So that's me polishing the crystal ball, speculating.
Illinois is interesting because we in many ways, our county is doing fine here in the middle of central Illinois, but we are definitely, Chicago pushes a lot of what happens.
Sure.
But then you look at a university and, it's hard to control any environment there because you got these kids living in close quarters, and then you lose all aspects of safety, and they're going to want to hang out with each other. They're going to want to hang out in pubs and bars and parties, and it's going to spread.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
From an internship perspective, this is the first summer that I'm putting together kind of a survival guide or just some tips from previous interns before they go out to work. As unprecedented as the situation is, I think it's also a great training tool for our students in construction, just because we don't know how long it's going to last. So when they're seniors, if they're juniors, they might be entering the workforce in this situation. And I heard a great quote on a webinar last week about how, those internships are supposed to prepare students for the professionals that they're going to become. And so just giving our students some reminders about showing up to work on time, developing your system of organization, making sure that you ask good questions, but you don't ask the same question twice. These are stressful times for everyone, and it's important that interns can go in, that there is going to be that learning curve, but important that they can go in and make an impact if that company is still going to invest in them. So I've put together a PowerPoint that the students, I'm sure, will love having to listen to me talk through that. But I thought that was important that they got that information before they went out to work.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that culture is very important, and I think that sending students into a workplace with the right mindset of how they should behave, and what the kind of the lowest common denominator expectations for a good employee, what they are. I'm constantly reminded that a lot of our students have never had a job before.
Right. And
they may think that being 5 minutes late is normal on the job. I kind of cringe because I don't want any of my students to get a rude awakening when they walk through the door 5 or 10 minutes late, or they have some other negative experience that could have been avoided. Very good. Well, so we've been on the call for about 45 minutes, I guess, at this point. Anything else before we adjourn? All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming. I really appreciate it. And I think this was some really good discussion. I want to thank Jim and the ATMAE headquarters for pulling this together, and of course all of our panelists. So all of you were panelists in this discussion. Thank you for being excellent panelists. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Neil.
You're very welcome.
Hey, and Neil, this is Jim Thompson. Just wanted to again thank you guys for showing up too, and Neil, thank you for agreeing to do this today. I really appreciate
Sure.
you jumping in like this, because again, I know these are unprecedented times, and you know, again, this is something we just hope would be a good member value for the members. And don't forget, we do have 3 more of these sessions. So the next 3 weeks at same time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Next week, we're going to have Dr. Hisham Lawrence from the University of Texas at Tyler doing a session regarding, you know, kind of what institutions are doing with their labs right now in regards to what's happening with the COVID. So again, and then a week after that, more of a kind of administration level conversation, and then following the conversation on accreditation, sort of what institutions are doing now with, as it relates to accreditation, how's that going to work coming up when they think about having to either renew their accreditation or they're having to modify the way they're doing things. So, but anyway, thank you guys so much.
Now go wash your hands.
That's right. Go wash your hands. Don't touch your face.
Bye, everybody. Have a great week, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Neil. Good to see you again.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.